Okay, so this next one's a little bit more complex. We're going to have a few more things we have to do to get the part that we want to edit selected out from the rest of the image. We're going to use, in addition to some other things, we're going to use the polygonal lasso, which you generally don't have to use too much, but it's probably the only thing that'll work for this one. And I am going to show you a new kind of adjustment layer, which is a warming filter. So let me get into screen share. Okay, so this is a great photograph as it is, but you know, they can always be better. And one thing I thought that would help the subject of this picture, which is the wheel, pop forward a little bit would be if it was just a little bit lighter, you know, just increase the exposure a little bit, but B, also to maybe bring out some of that rust color that's on the wheel by putting a warming filter on it. Now selection on this is going to be tricky because I want to highlight the spokes and the wheel here, but I don't want to highlight this black thing in the background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it as easy on myself as I can. Anything that's easy, I'm going to go ahead and select it with my quick selection tool. They're a little harder to select. Okay, you can see I tried to select this whole background here, and I have to kind of go into that negative space and tell it, no, I don't want that. It's a little tricky there. Okay, it's like this, yeah, it's just not working too well. These tools are great when they work and they're not so great when they don't work. Okay. Let me see if I can get the parts of the wheel that aren't up against something black aren't going to be too hard. But when you have something really narrow like this, it can create a problem, and it looks like it's tried to select in all this negative space. I've got to get rid of that. The other thing that makes this different is it's got some hard edges in it, and that's where the polygonal lasso comes in. So I'm probably going to have to use the polygonal lasso for that. Let me see. I think I'm also going to show you the regular lasso. So before I do the hard stuff, this piece right here is kind of irregular shaped. And I'm just going to trace around it with the regular lasso. I'll get the spokes last. Okay, let's see. So what I'm going to do for the rest of it then is under the lasso is the polygonal lasso. And let's see, it works in straight lines. I'm holding my shift key right now because I'm adding to a selection, and I'm basically going around each spoke. Doesn't take as long as you might think. You want to try to be careful to stay even with your lines, and it's probably best to use the fewest amount of clicks possible for something very mechanical like this. But ultimately, the polygonal lasso is pretty easy to use. Okay, let me get this one. I may not be doing the absolute best job on selecting on this one. I'm trying not to make this video too long. But hopefully you'll get the point. I would say normally I would go into select and mask in this one and try to clean it up. But I'm hoping that you just kind of get the idea, and forgive me if this one's just not quite as good. Okay, I've got to come back to my starting point. Where did I start on this one? Well, if you can't find your starting point, I think it's right here, but if you can't find your starting point on a lasso selection, just double click and it'll go right to the starting point. And the only thing I have left is I've got this little piece of negative space right here. I'm going to have to use my Option key to get rid of it. Okay, and that's all there is to that. I've got just a couple of little spots that I'm going to clean up. And I can sometimes do that with the Polygonal Lasso. Clean that up too. Whoops, I was holding the wrong key. You want to add to a selection, you have to hold the Option key, and if you want to take away, you hold the Shift key. Okay, so this is not perfect, but I think it's close enough. Whoops, I did it again. Okay. Did it again. Sorry guys, it's getting late in the day and I'm tired. Okay, we're gonna call that good. All right, so let's take a look at the layers palette. And as usual, the first thing I wanna do is adjust the exposure. It's just like so many pictures I've shown you today. Sometimes the foreground, if it's just exposed a little bit more than the background, it'll pop forward. And what we want is for this wheel to kind of pop forward a little bit and kind of move more into our space and separate itself off the background a little bit. So I don't think it's going to take much. That right there is probably plenty. I think it'll be too exposed if we do any more. Okay, I want to make that selection again because I am going to do another type of adjustment layer. So again, hover your cursor over the mask, hold the Command key, see the little box of dotted lines next to the hand, and click, and your marching ants come back. So I'm going to click on the layer one. I'm going to click on adjustment layers, and this time I'm going to try photo filter. And this is a really cool this is a really cool setting because it lets you create warmth or coolness. And I'm just going to start with the first filter that came up. There's several of them. You know, I don't want to drag it too far to the right. I mean, that looks kind of cool, but it's, you know, probably way too warm for this picture. So I'm just going to drag it back about halfway where I had it. I just want it a little bit warm, but there are a bunch of different warming filters in here, and you kind of need to try them all. You've also got cooling filters, which of course we don't want in this case. You've also got filters that just apply a flat color to something, and I'm not saying any of these look good. I'm just showing you that that's what they can do. But let's go back. I think it's between the first two warming filters. I'm still, you know, kind of liking this one better. Yeah, I'm just going to nudge that a little bit to the right. And now we've got a complex selection. Didn't take me that much time. That took about 5 minutes, and maybe about 5 minutes messing with the adjustment layers. And it was worth it. Let me turn these off. There's before and there's after. Okay, I'm gonna take that down just a little bit more. And that's all there is to that.